The faces in the portraits. A man got lost in the woods. He wandered for a long time and finally came upon a hut at dusk. There was no one inside, so he decided to go to bed. But he could not sleep for a long time, because there were portraits of some people on the walls, and it seemed to him that they were looking at him ominously. At last he fell asleep from fatigue. In the morning he was awakened by bright sunlight. There were no paintings on the walls. They were windows. Spoiled film. One girl photographer decided to spend a day and night alone in the deep woods. She wasn't afraid because it wasn't the first time she had been hiking. All day she photographed trees and grasses with her film camera, and in the evening she settled down to sleep in her small tent. The night passed peacefully, the terror only catching up with her a few days later. All 4 reels turned out great pictures, except for the last frame. In all the pictures was her, sleeping peacefully in her tent in the darkness of the night. A call from the babysitter. One day a married couple decided to go to a movie and leave the kids with a babysitter. They put the kids to bed, so the young woman just had to stay home just in case. Soon the young woman got bored and decided to watch TV. She called her parents and asked their permission to turn on the TV. They naturally agreed, but she had one more request. She asked if they could cover the angel statue outside the window with something, and because it made her nervous. For a second there was silence in the tube, and then the father who had spoken to the girl said, "Take the kids and run out of the house. We're going to call the police. We don't have an angel statue." The police found everyone left at home dead. The angel statue was never found. Who's there? 5 years ago, deep in the night, 4 short bells rang at my door. I woke up, got angry and didn't open it. I wasn't expecting anyone. On the second night, someone rang again 4 times. I looked out the peephole, but there was no one at the door. In the afternoon I told the story, and joked that perhaps death had mistaken the door. On the 3rd evening, an acquaintance of mine came over and stayed late. The doorbell rang again, but I pretended not to notice anything to check if I was hallucinating. But he heard everything perfectly well and, after my story, exclaimed, "Let's deal with these jokers," and ran out into the yard. That night was the last time I saw him. No, he hadn't disappeared. But on the way home, he was beaten up by a drunken group and died in the hospital. The calls stopped. I remembered this story because I heard 3 short doorbells last night. A twin. My girlfriend texted today to say she didn't know I had such an adorable brother, and a twin too. Turns out she had just stopped by my house, not knowing I was working late into the night, and he met her there. He introduced himself, bought her coffee, told her some funny stories from his childhood, and walked her to the elevator. I don't even know how to tell her I don't have a brother. Raw fog. It was in the mountains of Kyrgyzstan. The climbers were camped near a small mountain lake. Around midnight everyone wanted to sleep. Suddenly a noise was heard from the side of the lake, either crying or laughing. The friends, there were 5 of them, decided to check what was the matter. They found nothing near the shore, but they saw a strange fog in which white lights were shining. The boys went towards the lights. They took only a couple of steps towards the lake, and then one of them, who was the last to go, noticed that he was standing knee-deep in icy water. He yanked the 2 closest to him. They came to their senses and got out of the fog. The 2 ahead of him disappeared into the fog and water. It was impossible to find them in the cold, in the dark. In the early morning the survivors hurried after the rescuers. They found no one, and by evening, the 2 who had just plunged into the fog also died. A picture of a girl. One high school student was bored in class and looked out the window. On the grass he saw a picture thrown by someone. He went out into the yard and picked up the picture. It showed a very beautiful girl. She was wearing a dress, red shoes, and she was making a V sign with her hand. The boy started asking everyone if they had seen this girl, but no one knew her. In the evening he put the photo by his bed, and at night he was awakened by a quiet sound, as if someone was scraping at the glass. In the darkness outside the window there was a woman's laughter. The kid went out of the house and started looking for the source of the voice. That one was quickly moving away, and the guy did not notice how hurrying after him, ran out onto the roadway. He was hit by a car. The driver jumped out of the car and tried to save the hit man, but it was too late. And then the man noticed a picture of a beautiful girl on the ground. She was wearing a dress, red shoes, and was showing 3 fingers. Don't open the door. A 12-year-old girl lived with her father. They had a great relationship. One day her father was going to stay late at work and said he would be back late at night. The girl waited for him, waited, and finally went to bed. She had a strange dream. Her father stood on the other side of a busy highway and shouted something to her. She barely heard the words, "Don't open the door." Just then, the girl woke up to the ringing of the bell. She jumped out of bed, ran to the door, looked through the peephole and saw her father's face. The girl was about to open the lock, as she remembered the dream. And the father's face was somehow strange. She stopped. The bell rang again. "Daddy? Ring, 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 ring. Daddy, answer me. Ring, ring, ring. Is someone there with you? Ding, ding, ding. Daddy, why don't you answer me?" The girl was almost crying. "Ding, ding, ding, ding. I'm not opening the door until you answer it." The doorbell rang and rang, but the father was silent. The girl sat huddled in the corner of the hallway. This went on for about an hour, then the girl fell into oblivion. At dawn she woke up and realized that the doorbell was no longer ringing. She crept to the door and looked through the peephole again. Her father was still standing there looking straight at her. The girl carefully opened the door and screamed. Her father's severed head was nailed to the door at peephole level. There was a note pinned to the doorbell with only 2 words, "Clever girl."